What was the biggest lie you believed? On April Fool's, while I was getting ready for school on a cold winter day, my mom told me school is cancelled. It's a snow day. I ran around for a good 2 minutes celebrating before she told me April Fool's. I've never felt so betrayed in my life. My mom told me when I was 5 and my favorite dog died that it doesn't matter that dogs die, because in 7 years they respawn. So I was like, oh. Fine. See you then, bud. I will be older and we will play again. That my dad moved out and rented a room in the house of a female friend for tax reasons. That my parents were married. Truth is, my father was. Just not to my mother. I'm not having an affair. My wife who was having an affair. Our family were poor and lived in a house where the ceiling plaster had bowed so much that it bowed down, bulging out. My dad told me that there was a World War II bomb buried in the ceiling. Believed it for years. Absolutely terrified the entire time. As a little kid, Dad told me that there was a Greek god of sex called fellatio. I'd never heard the word before. Then, freshman year of high school, took a mythology class and asked the teacher in class why we hadn't talked about fellatio. Silence. You know, the god of sex? I'm cringing hard just typing this out. Got a nice little talk after class and Dad almost peed his pants laughing that night. Edit. Thanks for the love for my dad. He was always pulling bullshit like this until he died of cancer in 2015. I was frustrated with his playful bullshittery as a kid, until I was able to connect with him as a friend in my early 20s or so. He was really into wordplay and turning phrases, as well as Warhammer and WoW. I miss him. And this fellatio story always makes me smile. When I was very young we had a pet hamster. He got out of his cage. So my dad put the cage in the basement thinking he might get hungry and get back in. One morning I woke up and there was the hamster in his cage in the usual place. I asked my mom how they found him and she told me she opened the door to the cellar and there he was dragging his cage back upstairs. It wasn't until I was a teenager and remembered the exchange that it occurred to me she obviously made that up. Outside of dumb lies your parents tell you as kids. My friend who worked at a gas station with a big food station that has some ground beef items told me they use kangaroo meat for their ground beef because it was cheaper than cow. I am gullible with my friends. That acne would only be a problem when I was a teenager. That adults knew what they were doing. When I was like 16 I found out that one of my sisters wasn't actually my sister. She was actually just best friends with my oldest sister growing up. And she lived with my family from when she was like 12 or 13 through 18. She and my oldest sister are 15 years older than me. Unfortunately her parents wouldn't sign her over for adoption and didn't contribute anything for my mom raising her for 6 years. Weirdest part is that my family is predominantly fair-skinned, blonde with blue eyes. But the girl I thought was my sister was traditional Mexican with darker skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. My mom was always very tan and had darker hair throughout my childhood, so I thought that my other two sisters and myself were the odd ones out. The Tinder account was just a shared account for joking around with my friends. I never even logged in on my own. It was in fact his account which he had been using during the last 3 months of our relationship. And yes, I knew how unbelievable that sounds, but I refused to believe that the man I trusted so much would ever do this to me. I'll fill up my car with gas before work tomorrow morning. That a full career and retirement from the US Navy would guarantee me free medical. When I was a kid my cousin convinced me for like an hour that her mom had won the lottery. I can still feel the loss of millions of dollars 2 decades later, and that shit hurts, bro. Why, Jessica? Why? The microwave will explode if I put my face too close to it while it's heating food. When I grow up, I'll always be able to do what I want. When I want. Oh my sweet summer child. That justice will always win. Bullies get bored if you ignore them, ox poop. My dad got sick of having to listen to the kid shows I watched as a child. So he told me that the Power Rangers and Barney the dinosaur died in the car crash with Princess Diana, so I couldn't watch them anymore. I didn't actually question it until I was quite old. Embarrassingly. I had dumped some gasoline in an Arizona tea bottle to get a fire started. My sister seen me pour it on fire and she freaked thinking Arizona iced tea was flammable. I went along with it saying, yeah, you didn't know that? That's why it's called Arizona, because how hot it gets there. She was 20 years old. Around 5 years later we are camping and she says, who's got some Arizona I can use to start this campfire? I looked at there and didn't understand. She explained I told her it's flammable. I had no recollection. She says she has been telling everyone for the last 5 years how bad it is for you and how flammable it is. If you go to college you'll get a good job and have a nice house. Lying 90s third grade teacher. My church isn't a cult. It was a cult. If you simply put your head down, do what you're told, and work hard, things will work out. That it's not what the outside. It's what's on the inside that counts. No matter how you cut it, pretty people get better chances in life. It doesn't matter what you do. If you look like Quasimodo, you can put in the most effort on a given task. They would rather swing the credit to anyone else. How hard you work would be proportional to how well rewarded you would be. It's illegal to turn on the dome light while the vehicle is moving. Turns out it's just annoying as hell. That you need a license for children's parties. That was the reason why I never had a party when I was little growing up. You need to get a license from the post office. But there's only a certain amount of licenses available for that area. Parents love their children equally and unconditionally. I love you. I was a Mormon for way too long. Half-Life 3 being released. Someday. Cries in never. I lived my entire life genuinely believing my childhood home was built by little people because the attic crawlspace is unbearably low. Turns out, yeah, they were a little below average height but not literal dwarves. Just about everyone I know has laughed at me. I really am a clown. Honk. That someday everyone meets their person and live and love together the rest of their lives. Never happens for some of us. That I won't have a calculator wherever I go. Tears of joy, tears of joy, tears of joy when I was in school. I used to believe that I needed to memorize all the math formulas and multiplication tables because I wouldn't have access to a calculator wherever I go. However, with the advancement of technology, I now carry a calculator with me all the time. In the form of a smartphone or a smartwatch. So, that belief turned out to be a big lie. The American dream. That carrots improved night vision. Damn Brits and trying to hide radar use. It will stay just between us. I had a fraternity brother from NY come to university in Oklahoma. This was before the internet. We told him to be careful of rattlesnakes. We explained what they were. He did not believe. So, we took him to the library, pulled the encyclopedia, and showed him. He then asked, what else can kill you in this state? Without missing a beat, one of our brothers said, they probably won't kill you. But you have to watch out for drop cats. He then went on to tell him how this kind of cat, 40-pounders on average, evolved to use the cat trait of landing on their feet to kill their prey. They would climb trees, hanging upside down, then drop feet down onto their prey. Only defense? An open umbrella. This guy walked to and from every class. On sunny days. Not a cloud in the sky. Opening his umbrella as he walked under every tree on the campus. Lasted about 3 weeks. I swear on my mother's life I'm not messing around with your wife, we're just friends. If you work hard enough and believe in yourself you are going to have success. More like, if you have rich parents you're going to have success. Edit. To everyone who's like, but my parents are poor and I'm a mint major and do well. I would phrase it like that. It's like playing the lottery. There is the super jackpot. Jackpot and several other winning categories ranging from superb to shit. Then there are a lot of blanks. If you're poor you have to buy a lottery ticket, i.e. work hard, to have a chance. If you're lucky you will land on your feet in one of the lower winning categories. If you're super lucky you'll maybe get close to the jackpot. But never the super jackpot. If you're with the 95% of the majority you're not lucky no matter how many tickets you buy and everything you do does not matter. If you do have rich parents you don't have to buy a ticket but are automatically guaranteed to be in the jackpot category. If you do buy a ticket you have a good chance for the super jackpot. To everyone who's like, but AK shoe ALLY. Yeah. Of course you need to have parents who do give a fuck about you. Yeah, being brain dead doesn't help. Yeah, one rule or thought does not apply to everyone. That America was family-oriented, cared about its citizens, and was everything I saw in movies growing up in the UK. Then I moved here. No healthcare. No guaranteed time off. Bankruptcy for cancer. Hatred for minority groups. I've never experienced such a culture shock. I asked for 5 weeks paid vacation when I arrived, which I got in England. I was literally laughed out of the interview. 22 years later, things have not improved. About a year into our relationship, my ex told me that she wasn't attracted to me when we started dating. But she went along with me courting her because she didn't want people to keep teasing her for being a virgin. She supposedly fell in love after a short while. But it's hard to know how much of anything she said is true after hearing that. That all men are created equal. Unfortunately, some men are more equal than others. When I was a kid, my dad told me I made the best cold glasses of ice water. Nobody could make ice water quite like me. So, sure, he could get off the couch and get himself a glass of water. But since I was better at it, that burden fell to me. Girlfriend swore to God she was on birth control. I had no reason to not believe her. One day, while running around my apt, late for work, I bump into my bookcase, and several books crashed to the floor. I go to pick them up real quick, and my eye falls on a page that fell open, and I see the word pregnant. What's this? Apparently some diary my girlfriend had been keeping, as it was all in her handwriting. Okay, so, pregnant. Better read this page real quick. And it was this whole entry about how she was worried, because she was not getting pregnant. After months of trying. Say WHAAAAAAAAAATTTTT. So I put the book back. And then later on quizzed her about just what sort of birth control she was on. And of course, her answers were dodgy as fuck. That 3 inches was enough. That people joined the army out of patriotism and love of adventure. Found that out the hardest way possible. We are just friends lol. When you ask what's going on BW him and a friend. That if I do enough good things will happen to me. I still pity the small child who ran herself ragged trying to help everyone and destroyed her mental health because she thought that she was a bad person if she didn't dedicate every waking moment to other people. I didn't deserve that. You can trust people, work colleagues. When I was 15, over my summer break, one day my mom called and said she was gonna pick me up and we were gonna go to my stepdad's for the weekend. I didn't understand why I had to go when she would leave me at home by myself for the weekend all the time. I was old enough that I knew the rules and she could trust me. She told me there was a mix-up at the electrical company and they seemed to think we didn't pay the bill and so the power was gonna be shut off. So we were gonna go to my stepdad's until that got sorted. That was a lie. A weekend turned into 2 weeks. Turned into a month and then the entire summer. We hadn't been home in over 2 months. I kept asking when we could go home and she'd always have an excuse. Now we're in September. She's driving me from one city to my hometown to register for the following year of school. Which started up in a week. This was the closest I had been to home in 2 months. After I registered, we bypassed my house and started heading towards the highway to go back to my stepdad's. It was at that moment I snapped and started freaking out. I knew something was wrong. She pulled the car over and started crying. Apparently, my brother had been helping her pay the bills and when he moved out, she could no longer afford the place on her own. So my stepdad was trying to help but he had his own house and kids he had to look after. And he couldn't keep it up. We had been evicted. We stayed with my stepdad for the summer while my mom tried to work something out with the landlord but they couldn't come to an arrangement. Because she never told me. And in order to buy herself time to work something out, she had to be comfortable with potentially leaving everything behind. Well, she couldn't work it out with the landlord and we lost everything. Only thing I got out of that house was the shoes on my feet and a few outfits, PJs enough for a weekend stay. The cake. My dad told me when I was young that when you go to the wrong place, you'll find the wrong man. My cousin is happily married to a man she met in the club. Truth is, even man from church sucks. The government has the best interest of the people at heart. OxyContin isn't addictive. Hi. I'm posting from my last week in rehab, I hope. ADHD is only the super hyperactive kids in school. Spent a lot of my life not knowing why I was different and why my brain didn't work like others. That the system we live in is good and needed. One morning my bro and I woke up to find 2 chicken eggs in our hamsters, both male, cage. My parents told us that they were actually hamster eggs and ours were going to have babies. We got so excited. The words, April Fools, brought us to tears. The police, serve and protect. More like target and harass. You are imagining things because you are crazy. I have many mental health difficulties. If I was told I was imaging things, I would spend a lot of time beating myself until I thought what I was told to think. Turns out I was not imaging things. I was just being gaslit to protect someone else's pride. That I was the problem in my family. In reality, I was just the scapegoat. Now I'm an adult and it's painfully clear and I'm validated BCUZ. I've learned everyone else who knows my immediate family also sees it too. I realize I was treated so badly BCUZ. I was the only one who saw something wasn't right and the only one willing to point it out. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like. If you would like to see more content like this in the future, subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified about future videos. Now check out one of these interesting videos.